Hello and welcome to Analysing Avatar. We are taking a look at Korra Season 3 at the moment, and we have made it to the episode Long Live the Queen, which I believe is the 10th episode of this third series change. For those unfamiliar or unfamiliar is the wrong word, maybe not remembering where this episode goes, this is the episode, of course, in which Zahir turns up in the Earth Kingdom, waiting for Korra to turn up in the Earth Kingdom because she was kidnapped by the Queen, and then he realizes she's escaped, and he's like, well, I guess, we don't need a queen. That's kind of my thing. I don't like people in power, so I'm going to go sort out this. And one of the most brutal, not the most, we'll come to that, but one of the most brutal deaths in the series occurs as the Queen is murdered. Pretty harrowing stuff. We see the walls coming down in the Earth Kingdom, and we see the various reactions of the people across the way. Although, as a little B plot, Korra's just up to some adventures in the sand dunes, trying to escape because there's a big sandfish. The episode ends, of course, with the gang all reuniting, with the goal, presumably, of stopping Zahir from murdering any more political figures. And the gang in this case includes Lin and
except
Zuko.
Marco and Bolin, who are still stuck in prison, with one of them, I've given up, one of them trying to metal bend.
Yes, with one of the two. Yes, that's correct. So that's the episode. How are we feeling, Chris? What do we think?
I thought it was great. I thought it was action-packed. I thought, we got a fucking big old fish coming out of the sand chasing him. Mm-hmm. We got a gruesome death. I mean, I fucking felt like a fucking Star Wars movie, mate. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved it in like a different way. Last week's was just like a real fun romp. And like I say, this is like a fucking action movie, man. This was brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah, I really, I know we talked about this a lot, so I don't want to feel like I'm repeating myself, but it is great how all the storylines of the season are colliding in a different way this week, because obviously last week we talked about it in the fact that obviously the Earth Queen grabbing Korra was a really neat way to weave that story back in to, this fight with Zahir, but of course. And, it's funny because I remember feeling this way the first time watching this episode. How did we not see it coming? How, when they laid out Zahir's framework last week of thinking that these politicians, these, kings and queens, these leaders are corrupt, these governments are broken. When he gives that speech, how can you not immediately, your mind not immediately go to, well, he's going to take out the Earth Queen, obviously. Like, she's the one we've been introduced to this season. It's like in Scooby-Doo, when they're trying to figure out who the ghost is, but they've only been introduced to one new character that week. It's Old Man Smithers who runs the amusement park. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were just introduced to a new political figure in the world of Korra. And now we've got a villain who wants to remove them from power. It's like, hey, of course, that's how the Earth Queen was going to play into this. It makes so much sense that at least I was when I first watched it, almost annoyed I didn't see it coming. From the previous week when Zahir laid out his world view, so to speak. So yeah, I really dug this episode, and I really dug the way they weaved that plot back into it, because again, like early in this season, there's that concern of there are a lot of plates spinning here, and they don't particularly seem connected, but they're all coming together, and I'm really enjoying it, and that's particularly again so obviously where this story was should have gone, but yet still surprising, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and let alone all the great, like, all the stuff with Korra and the sand dunes and the Earth people coming round to her. I love the way we're really going in on the plot of one of them metal bending. There was some really good, there's character stuff, there's action scenes, it's all coming together, baby. We've got our villains feeling like this really tangible threat, and like you say, just the writing's fucking tight in this series. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And I think as well, like with the last couple episodes as well, I feel like, and maybe this is a bigger topic, but I feel like the comedy is landing a lot more frequently this season than in previous seasons. And this isn't. I want to make it very clear. This is not Dan has a kick at season 2 again. Maybe we'll do that later in this episode because that has become a weekly tradition. Because I'm talking about season 1 too. I have always felt the comedy in the first 2 seasons, as we've been reviewing it, has stood out to me as being quite hit or miss. Some good jokes, some falling flat jokes. And we specifically criticised the use of Bolin as a comedic foil in previous seasons. Not every time he was used as a comedic foil, but there were often ones where it would fall flat or it was just like inappropriate. Like I remember there was an episode in season 1 where we had a pretty lengthy debate about Bolin's cracking a joke at Asami discovering her dad's a villain. You know, he cracks a joke, an awkward joke in that moment. And we knew what they were trying to do, but it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel in keeping with his character. And also, it wasn't that funny a joke. You know, so we were always a bit hit and miss. And we talked about Milo and fart bending again season 1. So this is not a dig at season 2. This is just a dig at what Korra has done so far. I think its comedy has worked sometimes, really let us down in others. And I was watching this episode, and there's this amazing moment early in the episode when Bolin is chatting to his captors, and like, oh man, you guys were captured for like 12 years, 15 years. What was that like? And they're describing it, and then they tell him that they played a game where they would guess what the guards' lives like. He's like, oh, I want to play, and he starts trying to guess their lives, and then he says some like stuff about them, and then I think I can't remember which one of them, but someone's like 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Which is this amazingly...
Yeah.
It's a funny moment, but it's so Bolin, like, character-wise. Like, for him to be so engaged with other people like that. It's really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. He's also like, I can't tell you how many times I named the constellation. It was great when it rained, and the other one's like, I would have loved some rain.
Yeah.
Obviously, because they're a waterbender, but still.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where just like, I don't know, like it not only is that funny, for a few different reasons. There's a few different jokes built into that scene. It's funny that they get chatting with Bolin. It's funny that Bolin's like guesses turn out maybe 2 out of 3 isn't bad in terms of his guesses, which I thought was cute and fun. But also like it's just so very Bolin. Like that's a great use of his character. Like that's a very nice way for him to be a comedic, you know, the comedic element of the team. You know, not having him make jokes when it's deeply inappropriate to, but find a way to be nice when it's maybe not the most appropriate because there is captors, but that being the joke. You know, like that's way better. That's such a better in for Bolin. So I wanted to, while we were on this subject, Chris, should we play Guess Which of the Two Are Correct? So the 3 things Bolin says about Kazan and Minghua is, you were raised by an older sister, your mustache grew in when you were 10, and I'm sensing an unspoken attraction between you two. So which 2 of the 3 do we think are accurate? Do we think Kazan's mustache grew in when he was 10? Do we think that Minghua was raised by an older sister, or do we think there's an unspoken attraction between the 2? He says 2 out of 3 ain't bad, so one of them isn't accurate. Which one is not right?
I think mustache and tension is correct. I think there's definitely tension between them. Like they share a little look. And I'll be honest with you, it has risen right to the top of plots I'm invested in. Like the tension between those 2 is there for me.
I thought you were saying mustache was the one you thought wasn't right, so I was agreeing with you. But I will say I think it's that Minghua was raised by an older sister. Is true because it occurs to me that Kazan is the one who says 2 out of 3, and he would know specifically about the year in which his mustache grew in. And I feel like 10 is too young for a mustache, so I think the mustache one is the one that's wrong. I think Minghua was raised by an older sister.
You seen his face? That dude's got some set in facial hair.
10 though? 10's very young.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I don't care. I know a guy who started getting a mustache at 12. It's kind of similar.
Yeah, it's 2 years earlier, I would say, is a big difference. But
well, you say potato, I say potato.
Sure. I'm glad we disagree on that, because I thought, to me, it seemed pretty clear the mustache one was the one that was inaccurate. But yeah, I like it. And also, because it's Gazan that replies 2 out of 3, I feel like, obviously, that's like, he would know when his beard came in. I don't think Minghua necessarily knows exactly when his beard came in to disprove that one. It's because it's also partly because Gazan is the one replying.
No, it's one of the things that led to the most sexual tension between them. She just kept staring at his moustache, and he was like,
she asked loads of questions about it.
Let me tell you something. 10 years old, baby.
Oh dear, we're going to get demonetized again. Oh my god. You know, we've had 4 now. Last week's one went as well.
What's rude about that?
I don't know what to do anymore with it. I just don't know how to stop them from demonetizing us.
Hold on. Why? Hold on. Why can't we talk about sexy mustaches? Why would we lose our demonetization for that?
That's a good question, actually. But I feel like using the word sexual and sex at all is probably going to get us demonetized. I don't know. That's the problem. That is the problem, Chris. YouTube don't tell you. They just go, content we found inappropriate. Great, good. Can I click this and get a quote, point to a time code? Let me know when and where so I know what to not do next time? No. Cool.
Well, cool. If YouTube have done that, they can f*** off.
Thanks. Okay, that's definitely okay. If it wasn't before, now it's definitely done.
I know. I did bleep that.
I'm not going in and bleeping it. No way am I digging through the file to find when you swore and bleeping it.
I'll tell you now. 12 minutes 26. Bleep it and let's see if we still get demonetized.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You've spoiled the experiment of whether sexual stuff or using the word sex would get us demonetized. Right. Have I got to bleep?
Not if you beep it.
Am I going to have to bleep a...
Beeping it will...
Okay. Beeping
it will make that moment funnier.
Okay. What is it? 12 minutes... 12 minutes and...
12:26-ish.
No, 12:26-ish. I'm going to write that down. Okay. And I'll tell you what's funny. Is like... Well, we'll just see. We'll see. Because that will give us a clue. Because I do think I said... the word we're bleeping from you right at the end of last week's episode, and I remember when I said it going, I wonder if we'll get demonetized just for that, because otherwise last week's episode was very clean in terms of the content, and yet we got limited, and I was like, damn it, it must have been that. So yeah, it'll be interesting if we don't swear, if we manage to not swear for the rest of this episode, which now we've said that is probably going to struggle. Then we'll be able to find out if just mentioning sexual or sex at all is going to be enough to get us demonetized. Let's find out. Anyway, moving on.
It's a worthy experiment, I reckon.
A worthy experiment, yeah. We'll report back to you guys next week. Keep listening, kids. Right, back to the episode. So yeah, would you agree with my overall point though? I think the comedy has been stronger this year in that when it tries to be funny, it's got a better hit rate. I think it's funnier a higher percentage of the time when it's trying, and I think the comedy is no longer sort of betraying the characters in the way it was previously, where they were sort of forcing the comedy in a way that felt unnatural for the character. Because Bolin is an empathetic character, and his joke about Asami's dad being secretly villainous in season 1 that we picked up on felt out of place even for him. So I don't know, do you agree with that thought, or am I seeing something in the show that it's not there? Am I just sort of I don't know.
No, I think that's all very true. Like I think it's a really good observation. I think it's also it's wittier dialogue as well. It's sharper. Like the jokes, not only do they not betray the characters, I think the jokes are better. Like I do. I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, the quality of them just seem good. Like one of my favorite things this week was when they were in the prison cell. We won't just for the rest of this podcast talk about moments that made us laugh. But my other big laugh this week came from when they were in prison and they're talking to the other prisoner. And he's like, I've got a wife and 4 kids. And when they first put me in here, it was great. I got peace and quiet. For the first few months, I had a great time. But now I want to get back and see my family. I miss them. And then later on, that same guy delivers genuinely one of my favorite lines from maybe the entire show, which is like when Marco's like, I believe in you, Bolin. And he goes, yeah, I believe in you, Bolin. Just from the background. When he's trying to get Bolin to Metalbird, it made me laugh so much. Like that was very, very funny. So yeah, good times. Good times were had.
There was also when the bad guys, I can't remember the Red Lotus, they come and they unlock all the doors except their door. And Bolin.
Yeah.
And Bolin's like, I did it! This is great! I mean, not for us, but I did it! And he's like, I don't think that was you.
Yeah. So let's talk about Korra's plot first. Let's break down what goes on with Korra in a bit more detail. So for those who don't recall, this is the episode where Korra goes out. She's on the sand dunes because she a bit brute forces her way through the airship that has her kidnapped once she's free. Well, obviously, Asami is the instigator of this because Asami's the one that gets Korra free in the first place. We'll talk about that in a second because, just for Asami gets loads to do this week, which is nice. Then Korra ends up breaking the ship and it crashes and it becomes a repair the ship so we can get out of here so we don't die in the desert situation. But then the ship gets taken away from them right before they get it off the ground, and they have to improvise their way out. And in the end, Korra wins the respect of the earth-bending general and team. But I think generally the first point on this plot, before we talk about Korra's element of it, is Asami. I think so it's Asami that's smart enough to say to the guard, "Oh, just tie me up. What's the difference between tie me to the floor and tie me to that pole? Tie me to the pole." And you know what she's doing as a viewer. From that through her plot line about being disappointed with the build quality of the ship, to being forced to try and repair it and using her technical know-how to do that. She's extremely useful this episode, and they really do make use of her skill set and her character. So I was really pleased with that. I mean, #Justice for Asami continues, but damn, that's
absolutely #Justice for Asami.
Yeah, but that is still what a step in the right direction. Seeing her and Korra stood on that ship, looking out at the desert. I don't know, it felt right. I was like, yes. Forget Team Avatar. Let's build on this. Asami being useful, being part of the team, being her and Korra. Because you clocked last year they were sort of developing a Korra Asami friendship. They had an episode where they both went out in the car, I think. Was that last year? And then we talked earlier this season about them two sort of being united in their sort of having gotten over Mako, which has been a really fun way to unite those two characters. But more of this is definitely the way, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's done really well. I think they work really well as a pairing, and there's just a lot of charm when they're on screen together. There's a lot of it's also a nice balance. You've got arguably the most powerful character in the entire show and the entire world in which the show is set, and you've got one of the few non-benders in the franchise. I know obviously Sokka and there have been a number of characters that aren't benders, but it's they're few and far between. I'd argue there's more benders than not. So to see them pair up and to see something like this week, where, like you say, Asami is the one that fundamentally starts the thread that's going to get them out of there. Is really effective.
Yeah, and she does it on her own, as well. It's not Korra that's oh, Asami, could you just do this? This will solve the problem. Like that temptation to make the hero the instigator of the solution. Like Asami takes the initiative. She's the one who gets herself out of the situation. She's the one who knocks out that guard. She's the one that then frees Korra. She's the one that suggests repairing the ship. Like it's Asami. Like Asami is leading the story, which I think is correct. I mean, boy, does she deserve it after the way this show has treated her for the last few seasons. Okay, there you go. That's my dig at season 2 for this week. Hashtag justice for Asami.
Hashtag justice for Asami.
Right, so with that in mind, then obviously the rest of that plot is just a bunch of really cool action. I don't know if there's anything particular you want to speak about in regards to like their escape from the fish, the visuals, like anything from that section of the show.
Like I say, it just really reminded me of Star Wars. Like, I don't know if it was sort of that futuristic, but also where it's like a handmade. So for those that don't remember, they crashed the sort of Zeppelin thing of the Earthbenders, and they end up having to build this makeshift aircraft, which in itself is really cool. And sorry, I just suddenly remembered that this episode features. I just remembered the death of the Earth Queen, and I was like, "Fucking, that was brutal."
Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute. That's the next. I wanted to get the B plot out of the way before we get to what I consider the A plot of this episode. But yes,
yeah. So yeah, I thought so. That was really cool to see that sort of makeshift glider thing. And it didn't seem to be. They referenced at first it being a spirit, and it didn't seem to be a spirit. Just seemed to be a desert fish, dragony type thing. But I thought it looked fucking cool, and like I say, like it really just felt like I don't know, and I guess to some degree, sort of animals rampaging through deserts, and a character we think is going to be important dying. Like, maybe that's why it reminds me of Star Wars. These are things we've seen in Star Wars movies. I'm not saying they copied it. We've seen them in a lot of Star Wars movies that came after this. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it really helped the whole thing feel like an action adventure movie. This could have been the penultimate episode of the series. But it's not, and that's what's really exciting. It's like this isn't even the end. So yeah, I love those scenes. What about you?
Yeah, agreed. I think like because it's a good mix of it feels like, I tell you what's good about it is, in a show that's been serialized this year, having what feels like an episode of the week plot baked in a natural way, where they've just got a problem to solve this week, right now, that sort of has a beginning, middle, and end, right? The ship crashes, they're stuck in the desert with the Earth Kingdom guys that are like, hey, you're our captives. And they're like, not really. I am the Avatar, I'm currently free, so good luck catching me. But two of them working together, solving the problem, creating the ship, the makeshift ship they used to get out, which is inspired by the ships of the Sandbenders, which we obviously saw in the original Airbender, but then we get the great joke at the end where they pull up next to one of those and are like, hey, you want a slightly broken, improvised sand ship? But, we have the big action beat.
Oh, which is another great joke when the Earth Kingdom guy's like, hey, have we been in the desert for a long time, or is that a dragon? And then the other guy goes, oh, let's go get a drink.
That's a great moment. You're right. It's a great moment. So it's like it's a problem that occurs this episode, escalates within this episode from the fish and the desperate nature of their situation, and concludes this episode in a way that fits in so perfectly to what's happening in the wider serialized plot. Because Korra having escaped is what prompts Zahir to make the move he makes when it comes to killing the Earth Queen. Her re-arriving back at the sand, that sort of that town, it's called like Shady or Sandy something, I don't know, whatever it is. That town that she was at earlier in the season, a couple episodes ago, and having Lin, her dad, and Zuki Poos hanging out there. That is all part of the wider plot. So they managed to find a way to do a story of the week that perfectly sits inside of the serialized plot in a way that felt so natural that you almost didn't realize they were doing it. Like it's very clever. and it's extremely well structured and well thought out. And at the same time, even forgetting that element of it, it just works really well on its own. Like, there's a good little tension to it. It does feel like they're in a pretty difficult position. They do sort of think their way out of it, and in the end, they all come together as a team. And that's really fun. And seeing Korra lead that and use her airbending to power the ship and get them out, it's great. I don't know. It's really enjoyable. I actually do think the fish should have been a spirit. Personally, I think the design is really cool, and I don't mind that there are physical fish that live in. I mean, we saw back in the Avatar days, lots of giant creatures, fish, lizards, all sorts of really overly large things that posed a problem. But I just think in this example, since we've been setting up that the spirit world and the physical world are sort of colliding a bit this season, and it's starting to cause more and more problems, the idea that this fish was a spirit fish and was introduced by Korra's choice last season, and is having a negative impact on the world, as opposed to all of the happy little chirpy spirits we've seen bobbing about in previous episodes, I think that would have gone a long way, personally. It's not a criticism as such, because I like what they did, but I would have enjoyed that more, I think.
Well, I think it feels like if it had been a spirit, then truly it would have felt like every plot came together.
Right.
You know what I mean? Into one. And I think if it was a spirit, because of that spirit subplot and the specific notion that they're sort of terrorizing people a little bit, then that would really help bring that together and sell that and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's why that desire is within you.
Yeah, but I do think as well, like, it just sort of, it brings the plots together, but it also, I just think, like, for that plot, I think that is what that spirit plot is missing right now. Like, more evidence of negative impact of the spirits being present, and having one of the spirits be aggressive or violent in some way, like, like an animal like this, would have maybe been interesting. But it does fit in with, like, I remember there was the big lizard thing. I think is it unagi, the sort of a carnivorous eel, the big giant eel that eats people, that lived on. It was like a. What was it? It was like it was somewhere near Ba Sing Se, I think, like near Kyoshi Island, maybe.
I don't know. I can't remember.
It was like a big lizard thing that ate people, and that like Aang had to stop or escape. I think in the end, doesn't Aang like trick it into like spraying water on the burning village? I can't remember because that's it's Kyoshi Island. It's definitely Kyoshi Island because that's why later on we have that joke of like, when Kyoshi meets Kazuko, she's like, "Yeah, you kind of burned down my village." He's like, "I'm sorry about that," because Aang tricks the big eel thing into spraying water at him, but then hitting the village and putting the village out before he leaves. I remember that. So yeah, there's been big, vicious animals in the. So it's not. I'm not criticizing the big fish for existing as a big fish. I just think there was an opportunity to as you phrased it, Christian, sort of tie it all together a bit. But also, I think it would have slightly progressed the spirit story, as that actually is like, that's a spirit that's presenting an actual threat to people. Not all spirits need to be by default peaceful. So and we've seen that before as well. So that would have also fit within the world. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. This isn't a criticism so much as a missed opportunity, but it's fine because the episode's still really good. So I don't want anyone to think I'm picking at the episode for not doing it. I just think that might have been an opportunity to even do more with an episode that's already doing a lot, and it would have fit in quite neatly, I think.
So moving on from Dan hating the big fish and thinking the episode sucks because of it.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you... Come on, talk to me. What did you think about fucking breath bending? Which is fucking... Woo!
I thought...
that is some shit we've never seen before in this franchise.
I thought Chris will finally understand why I wasn't too surprised they pulled the show from the air last week. Because I talked a bit about the show being dark, and you were like, "Yeah, well, Avatar was dark." I'm like, because I knew this was coming, and I was like, "What?" I just have this image in my head of a Nickelodeon executive, like seeing the episodes in advance, and then going back into the boardroom and being like, guys, we've got to do something about Korra. I know we talked about moving it to digital only.
Yeah.
Well, like, maybe we need to pull the...
You
We got to push the button on that sooner than we thought. Because this is too much. We cannot put this on kids' TV at 10 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah, and then that executive, even for allowing it to go on Nickelodeon, that executive gets fired, and he goes over to the UK and he starts a new life, and he joins the BBC, and he has a meeting, and he meets with Stephen Moffat, and Moffat's talking about Doctor Who Series 8, and Moffat's like, right, okay, so the thing is, death is real, and you can feel cremation, and the guy's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Take a shot, everyone, for this week's Doctor Who reference.
Yep.
So yes, that is a reference to a very dark episode of Doctor Who where they find out the afterlife is real and that people in the afterlife feel cremation. Yeah. It's brutal, a really difficult and horrible episode of Doctor Who, which will have been very upsetting for children, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm still not sure it should have. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it and whether it should have been allowed. And equally here, now don't get me wrong, I fucking loved this. Like, we'd never seen it before. Yep. It was a really logical use of bending, but also, despite my personal enjoyment of it, there is an element of as when you phrase it like that, Mikey and Bri sort of lost their minds a little bit, haven't they? Fucking hell, guys.
I think.
What were they thinking?
I think, and I'm going to stand by this. The show laid out its intentions in season 1 for not being for kids in the same way Last Airbender was. The show ended with a murder-suicide. That was how season 1 ended, right? He put his hand over the petrol tank of the boat, electrocuted it, thus blowing them both up. That was pretty savage. I think they laid out their thinking on this show's target age group early on, and I feel like they sort of, you can take the other shot, Harry Pottered it, in that they understood that their audience was growing up with them, and that the show was therefore able to get darker and less kid-friendly as it went on, because their audience were growing into it. There are things that happen in the final Harry Potter book that you absolutely wouldn't have put anywhere near the first one without it being causing an outrage. Molly Weasley yelling, get back from my kid, you, and I'm not going to say because I don't want to scupper our experiment, but she does a swear.
It could have, because we talked about this last week, and it could have been the term murder-suicide that got us our X rating as well.
Oh, God. Yeah, but this is the problem. YouTube doesn't tell me. Yeah. Well, we'll never know this week. I used both. All right, fine.
Yeah, so if we've lost it anyway and we've gone there, right, Dan? If me and you were making a show for Pornhub and it was an animation about a toy car, right? Well, we're in the wrong place. That's not the show we've been commissioned to make. do you know what I mean?
No,
I take your point, right? Yeah. But fundamentally, they're making an Avatar sequel for Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I love it. I thought it was shocking. Yeah. I thought it was a new use of bending, all of those things. But when you were like, you can see why I got taken off the air, can't you? I'm like, wait a second, yeah, of course I fucking can. We're screwed out. We're screwed this week.
Korra being taken off air and put on the website and being stuck to just release on the website obviously is a multifaceted issue we discussed in great detail last week. There are many elements to why that happened. Many elements to why that happened. But the one element I didn't go into detail about last week, knowing this was coming up, was that, because obviously I don't want to spoil it, was this idea of some pretty shocking imagery, some pretty graphic imagery. And I'll lay this out there, Chris. What if I told you this isn't even the most brutal death in Korra?
That just seems crazy. Oh, man. This season?
I won't give that away. I won't spoil when. I'll tell you when you see it, although you'll know. When it comes, you'll know. You won't miss it, I don't think. But yeah, this isn't even the most brutal death in Korra, which is crazy, because that should absolutely be the most horrible death. Like, it's, you know what it is. I looked back at it while I was speaking a second ago, and just had it sort of on in the background. And the one shot that always gets me, it's the close up of her eyes and the expression on her face as she gasps for air she cannot get. It's
the eyes as well, dude. Her eyes are like pink.
Yeah, they're bloodshot as they go wide,
mad.
and the bloodshot gets closer to her pupil. Like, it is visually represented in possibly the most brutal way it can be. And then her face as she reaches up for the air as he takes it away from her before she then falls to the ground limply. Oh boy, it's animated incredibly. And I think, look, what's genius about this is 2 episodes ago they told us she eats bison meat. They've really made her a villain in a way that makes you weirdly okay with it. Like, and that's what's crazy. You should not be okay with it. Zahir has gone absolutely too far. Whether you agree or disagree with the existence of a queen, a monarch, and we've talked about that this season. I've talked about my own personal feelings on how the UK, for example, in real life, should not have a monarchy, right? I have talked about my personal opinion on that. I don't want to see anyone go in there and go murdering them, like, but yet still, you're just like, you're so close to being on Zahir's side because she's been presented so evil. Like, she's been presented such a force for negativity, for like suffering. You know, she's got bisons being kidnapped, the people are being oppressed. She's sitting there hoarding wealth. You know, she's kidnapping people to make her army. Like, she is a monster, right? She is a monstrous character. So by choosing to have Zahir take her out and not someone a bit cuddlier, or even someone just a bit more neutral, you know, someone who's not necessarily a force for good or a force for evil, he's immediately just obvious villain be obviousing, you know? He's a mustache twirly villain again. But because you have complicated feelings about the Earth Queen, and you know that the Earth Kingdom will be better off without her, you've got mixed feelings on it again. It informs the Zahir plot again, because you're sat there going, oh, I hate that he did it this way. This is awful. This is not how this should happen. This is brutal. I feel uncomfortable watching it. But he's right. The Earth Kingdom will be better off in this situation. Like, as brutal as this choice is. So what a challenging, deliberately challenging and complex choice for the show to make in this moment. Because obviously,
yeah, and look,
you shouldn't be endorsing murder.
Look, and
but yeah,
and look, it's that age old, you know, does murdering for the right reasons outweigh the murder debate that kids the world over will have had after episodes of Peppa Pig? But it's just arguably, despite how
you need to update your references. It's Bluey all the way.
Well, I didn't want to say it because we haven't watched it yet, but we are. This will go out way after. Hopefully, we've recorded that, so we are recording. Check your nothing but static feeds, peeps, because we are reviewing Bluey at some point.
Yeah, I'm very excited about doing Bluey, because for years people have told me how great Bluey is, and I'm really excited to find out how people have said it's like more complicated and a bit darker than you think, like, and a bit more involved, and like that there's some really, really like complex plots.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm quite getting this right, but apparently, dude, and this will make you. Can I give you one like thing that happens to make you even more excited for Bluey? And I don't know if I got the details of this quite right, but how nuts is this? In one episode, randomly, apparently, this guy, this homeless person, gets given, like, the character stops and gives money to a homeless person, and then like the rest of the episode just carries on, and it's not referenced again. And then a couple of episodes later, you see that homeless guy in the background, and he's managed to get some of his shit together. Like, and he's like, it looks like he's I mean, how like intricate is that? Like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. I didn't know that exact
kids.
example, but I am aware the show does a lot of like really subtle background world building and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'm excited to look at Bluey.
I think it's there.
Yeah, but it's gonna be fun.
Look, and I'm pretty sure, Bluey. But look, I mean, all joking aside about whether it's too far, it's amazing for all the reasons you've said. I don't want to repeat what you've just said, but it really is stunning. Like, it's fantastic, and also not only that, like, not only haunting and like how haunting and cool the visuals were of the death itself, but when dude sorry, we're screwed this episode. Sorry, I'm swearing again. Apologies. But I swore earlier as well. I said the F word earlier by mistake too. I still think bleep the original so the listeners could come on that journey with us. But when the dude fucking lava destroys the wall,
yes,
like, and the lava like seeps into all the cracks in the wall and like the cement basically, and then like it makes the wall crumble. It looks so cool.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about your thoughts on that stuff, because they do a few shots of like people in the Earth Kingdom reacting to the news as Zahir announces it on sort of the radio and the overhead like speakers and stuff. There's even a shot of Macon Bolin's family reacting. How did that stuff land for you?
Yeah, look, yeah, well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because they did a good job of making you see why. I think the thing with the wall is, so for me, the original shots of like the people in the town made me go, oh yeah, they want to be free. They're fed up of like, their airbending relatives getting stolen, like, and taken away. Like, they're fed up with the earthquake. This is great for them. But then equally, when the wall comes down and you see like the cheering outside, or what I took to be outside of that wall, I was also like, oh, shit's gonna kick off though. This is not gonna end well. And I was a bit confused. Where is Korra? Did they go back to Ba Sing Se then? At the end, or did Korra go somewhere else?
So Korra's somewhere else. She's in the little town, the Earth Kingdom town they were in last week, because remember, cool. For those who don't recall the details of this, so Lin is tracking down Korra. She finds the car, Naga, and Pabu waiting for Korra to return to, but of course they were in that little town when Korra and Asami got kidnapped, and so did Macon Bolin, by separate groups, but they were all kidnapped and taken away from that town, leaving the car, Naga, and Pabu behind. So Lin finds those and very wisely gathers the sort of elder council minus Tenzin in Korra's dad, it's Tonrok, Zuki Poo's, herself, and again Tenzin's the only one missing, but he's busy. To wait for her to return, because that's where she last was. And if Naga is there, then Korra's intention will be to return there. So they wait for her there at that town, which is an Earth Kingdom town outside of outside of the sand dunes, presumably. She doesn't return to Ba Sing Se. That's not where they've met. They've met elsewhere. Mako and Bolin are currently stuck in Ba Sing Se because that is where Zahir took them.
Right, okay, fair enough. Because I was like, because also with those, if it was Ba Sing Se, like, I'm like, why didn't they arrive at the wall? the Earth, Earth Queen's peeps be like, what's happening here? And so that makes more sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. I thought the other thing about the shot of the wall was you were kind of like, oh, it is gonna. So I'm not 100% sure, and I thought it earlier when you were like, we know it's the best thing for the people, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, yes, it's obviously better than being under that particular ruler's evil reign and all that sort of stuff. She's clearly not a good person, but equally she's going to kick off in Ba Sing Se, I reckon.
Yeah, without a governmental structure, things will degrade. Yeah, there will be chaos. There will be, and that's what I think is so good about it, because it does really lay out Zahir's worldview and the dangers of it. And I am. At some point, there's going to be a difficult discussion here about this, I think, because I think the show is dangerously teetering towards the idea of stick with the structures we have politically, and the structures we have politically benefit the rich and powerful, and they do need to be torn down, and chaos will ensue from that. But the world that builds in its place may be very well better. I genuinely think there's a chance that is what really actually needs to happen to fix many of the problems we have in our world. But to do that, there would be chaos, there would be disorder, there would be, presumably there would be deaths. It would not be a pretty situation. But I'm sitting here looking at Korra clearly laying out the foundation of, no, we need to work within the system to make it better. And I'm just like, that doesn't work. We've tried that for years and it hasn't helped. Like, you look at the situation in the UK where we've had 12 years of a government that the public have not been happy with for several of those 12 years, but have not had many opportunities to remove them, because of the way that the system is set up. They've been able to keep replacing our prime minister without any voting happening. That party being able to do that is legitimately despicable. And here we are in a situation where that system needs to be torn down and rebuilt ground up because it does not work, the UK's voting system. That not even including the fact that when there's this party that's currently in charge in the UK last won a vote, they still only had 30-40% of the public vote behind them, which is how do you run a country with only that percentage of people being behind you? It's crazy. So, I'm looking at Korra and going we're dangerously close to the message of this season being work within the system, folks. Which is I do worry is maybe a wrong message. I'm not saying go as far as to go just murdering political leaders and literally sending the world into chaos, but I do think we need to be breaking down some of these systems to rebuild them properly in a way that functions. And I do think that's going to mean a lot of very difficult things happening worldwide. But
the monarchy, the political system, giant fish. You are YouTube people. You're going for everyone this week now.
No one's safe. In terms of what it is just for this story, for getting the actual real world context and the potential implications of what they're saying with this story by framing Zahir as essentially the villain of the show. But I think, from a storytelling perspective, you're absolutely right. It's very powerful. That image of Ghazan stood on the rock and the people rushing past him, and you just know that deaths will now follow, is that's bad. There is absolutely, no telling now the chaos they've sown into the Earth Kingdom. And while in the long run, removing the Earth Queen is the good move, maybe going about it in this way by just murdering her and then letting nature take its course is maybe not the way to do it. Maybe the way to do it is to break the system down slowly and systemically, so you can then rebuild it in a way that is organized and maintains a certain level of order. Maybe we don't need full on anarchy, craziness, just murder in the streets sort of thing. So it's tricky because I'm not 100% sure I'm on board with the message that they're maybe getting at in a wider sense, but in a specific sense to this story, obviously Zahir's approach is wrong, and it's what we talked about last week. Right idea, wrong approach. It's the villain that's correct in his premise, but is wrong in how he's doing it. So yeah, I don't know. Powerful stuff. The imagery from this week really, the wall coming down, the shots of the various people in the Earth Kingdom looking at their radios, looking worried. Particularly the shot from Mako's family, because that shows their grandmother, who we knew was very fond of the Earth Queen, very sort of on board with the monarchy. She, her hands jumped to her mouth. Seeing that shot hits quite hard, I think. So yeah, I'm really pleased with what they did in this episode. I think it's really, really powerful. It's top
yeah,
tier.
I completely agree.
That was a lot.
You got any other notes, Daniel?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That was a lot. I feel like you say something for a second. You got anything else you want to mention about this week?
Yeah.
Were you excited to see Zuki Poos?
We've mentioned a couple. Yeah, I did enjoy seeing Zuki Poos. Yeah, I thought she rounded up the gang quite quickly. I could have sworn Zuki Poos and Korra had definitely met. Is the implication that more time has passed than we thought between seasons. Have we seen Zuki Poos and Korra meet?
No.
Because obviously he was like, I met you when you were a young girl. Oh, no, okay, we haven't seen that. Okay.
No. She met General Iroh in season 1, who is his grandson. And obviously has the original Zuko voice actor and looks a bit like Zuko. In terms of actual Zuki Poos, we saw him this season arriving at the prison after Zahir escaped it and being like, the Avatar's in danger. I better go warn her. And then he flew off on his dragon. And this is him, I guess, arriving in the action.
Okay, yeah, that is what I'm
we
thinking
haven't
of.
ever seen those two characters interact until now.
Right, fair enough. No, I was thinking of his grandson.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing Zuki Poos. I thought that was great.
I like this interpretation. Nadia, her feedback was that he wasn't awkward and weird enough. And I'm like, he had like one line of dialogue. He doesn't need to be awkward and weird in every single thing he ever says. He's one line.
Yeah, but also like,
she just enjoys that humor a lot.
Yeah, but also like, do you not mind revealing that? Well, let's say you're mid-30s, aren't you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm happy to say my age.
Yeah, I imagine you're pretty. You know, you're less awkward and weird than you were 15, surely, 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. True. Yeah. Absolutely true. But I would say that like one of the things we complimented earlier this season that is in his brief appearance, they did manage to capture a little bit of that old awkward Zuko energy. You know, he was in the lift and he was like,
yes,
once I sent someone like this after the Avatar. It didn't work, you know, that moment.
Yeah,
and we complimented that moment a lot. And I guess Nadia saw Zuko and got excited we might get something similar and was a little disappointed we didn't. I understand the impulse. He only has like one sentence here. He doesn't need to be awkward every word he says, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Let's have a look. At one point, I don't know why I wrote this, but I said, at one point in my notes, I wrote, Asami is on it. Slay Queen.
I mean, she is. It's just hashtag justice for Asami and the love that inspires.
I don't know why I wrote that. I thought what I loved about this episode as well, one note I wrote, is that Zahir initially goes in to talk to the Queen. And that was the moment it sort of hits you, I think, or at least it did for me, what his ideology is. And that it's actually very dangerous for him to be in the room with the Queen because you go, oh shit, yeah, this is the guy that hates political structures and hates these world leaders, and the Queen is, someone he specifically referenced as being a problem. Zahir being in the same room as her is a bad idea. I like as well that it's her arrogance that allows him to be in the same room as her. You know, she's like, yeah, sure, let him in. They could have played it up even more. They could have had the Daily be like, man, we really don't think this is a good idea, letting some strange, people into your palace directly. And she could have been like, no, it's fine. What are they going to do? Then they wouldn't dare hurt the Queen, that sort of thing. If they didn't, they leaned into it a little, but not as much as that, which would have been nicer. But sure, it's nitpicking here. We're just nitpicking. It's very small stuff. Nitpick corner.
I thought she was pretty quick to make a deal as well.
She was, yes.
Well,
that's what. Yeah.
She's very quick to be like, okay.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Was so we have this really interesting sequence where they come in. You go, God, they could really take her out here. And I didn't think they, when I first watched it, there was no way I assumed they were going to murder her. I just thought, capture her, take power, return power to the people, stick her in a cell, that sort of thing. Would have been my guess as to where this was going. But when he comes in and you realize, oh, they still need the Avatar. She has the Avatar. Using their knowledge of where the Airbenders are to sort of coax that out of her. But Zahir's very convincing. What he says makes a lot of sense. He's like, look, you've bitten off more than you can chew kidnapping the Avatar. It's going to cause a lot of political stuff for you. What you want is your Airbenders back. I can give you that without you needing to get the other nations up against you because you've kidnapped the Avatar. Give the Avatar to me. I'll take the heat for that, and you can have your Airbenders. It's a good deal. It makes sense. It is, it's exactly what she wants, but with none of the political blowback. He's smart to offer her that. But that whole scene has such a tension because you know exactly what his long-term goals are and how dangerous it is for those two to be in the room, and it really does build up the tension for what's going on the rest of the episode. Then once they find out that Korra has escaped, you're like, uh-oh. So it really plays out well. I love that whole sequence. I think it's really good. I thought it added a lot of tension to the episode.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
And I also like when he does decide that he's no longer going to put up with the Queen and he's making that call. He says, "I'm sick of I'm tired of chasing Korra. It's time to make her come to us." And I love this idea that he's like, she's the Avatar. If we start murdering indiscriminately and particularly like important political leaders, she's going to come find us. He's right.
And she's right. For someone that knows the Earth Queen is, an arsehole, she's pretty shocked at the end when she hears it on the radio.
Oh, Korra?
Yeah, Korra, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think that's, again, the show doing that thing of, like, how... look, when you look at how bloodless and how deathless Avatar has been, like, even they wouldn't even let them... And that is the irony of this episode. They wouldn't even let them show Jet dying properly. In an accident.
Hashtag justice for Jet.
Hashtag justice for Jet. They wouldn't even let his death be shown properly on screen.
Yeah.
So the fact that we got away with the Earth Queen death in this is pretty astounding.
Mikey and Bro were just... Come on, fellas. They wouldn't let you show Jet's death.
I feel like, I don't know if this is just in my head, but I feel like after season 2, they just went, fuck it. Like, they just went, screw it, we're just gonna go nuts. Like, that meme of the guy playing the piano, but the piano's on fire, and he's like that's how good he is at playing the piano. It's like, it's literally on fire around him. I feel like in this season, they sat down and they did that. Because this has been great. I love this so much. It's such bold storytelling. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. There's no denying that.
Yeah. So, I think that's all my notes and such. Unless you have anything you want to add about this particular episode being brilliant.
No, I'm noted out. The episode's fantastic.
Yeah, it's top tier. This is top tier. This season is thus far delivering, and with 4 episodes left. Where are we at? 1, 2, I think 3. 3 episodes left. So yeah, very exciting. So it's time for you to say the thing that you say, Chris, because it's morning for me.
Let's triv it up.
We're gonna give you some trivia. So only a couple bits of trivia this week, Chris.
I did that over you talking. Do you want to go again? Let's go again. Let's triv it up.
Did it happen again?
I think it did happen again. Right, okay. Final time. Let's triv it up.
I'm gonna give you some trivia. I think the reason that happened is I think there's a slight delay on our speaking this week. Only slight, but it was enough to cause us to accidentally talk over each other there. Let's have a look then. So this episode was another episode that was leaked ahead of its official release, but not by was it? Oh, I don't have it written down in front of me this week. Is it Mundo Nick?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, Mundo Nick, which is my favourite thing. No, this was leaked instead by a person. Unsure how they acquired the episode, but the person who leaked the episode did so under the name Zahir for the People on a Tumblr page. The message to fandom was the same message Zahir makes to the citizens of Ba Sing Se in the episode, but he, however, changed some words, so he changed Earth Queen to Nickelodeon.
I'm sorry, you did not give Zahir for the People the laughter it deserved, Dan.
It's incredible.
Oh, that's so good. That's fantastic.
It is actually incredible. It's really good stuff.
I'm Zahir for it. That's good.
And I just love that they did the message from the episode, but they changed the Earth Queen to Nickelodeon. Like they did the speech of the episode, but made that change. It's great, good stuff. Obviously, sad when anything leaks for the show, because obviously that will have hurt the numbers, and therefore that will have hurt, any chances of renewal or more of the show. But at this point, they'd finished season 4. That was going to be the ending anyway. I guess no harm, no foul at this stage. But yeah, that's still a shame, but very funny. This is the first known instance of airbending killing someone outside of the scope of self-defense. Yeah, you don't say. Yeah.
That's the correct response to that trivia. Just yeah,
correct.
Uh-huh.
Good point. I feel like I got distracted reading the trivia by the one ahead of that and didn't delete that one. And I think normally I would have probably deleted that last one because that's obviously.
I think you put it there in case you got to that piece of trivia and were like, "Oh yeah, we've not talked about how violent that was." What do you think, Chris?
Mate, there were very few things I knew going into this podcast that we would be discussing for sure. The violence of that death was definitely happening. There was no way we weren't having that conversation this week. That's the one thing I could have known with certainty. So the last piece of trivia, that shot of Mako and Bolin's family reacting to the assassination of the Earth Queen went through some retakes. In the initial depiction of the scene, they did not have any visible reaction to Zahir's address. So they added like the movement of the hand to the mouth and things like that. So it went through a few adjustments as it went on. But yeah. So it says here they didn't have any visible reaction. Does it mean it must mean wait. 1 second. I just want to double check something. Because this comes from the commentary. Oh yeah, here we go. So apparently so this is from Brian. This is from the Bri of Mikey and Bri. I remember the first storyboard didn't call out any poses, and listening to the news, it was like, oh, the Earth Queen has been assassinated, and they had no reaction at all. They're all laughing at this point. And I remember in the retakes, we were like, I think they need, at least a couple of them, need to react. So they had to have the shot redone, which is very fun. That's funny that's the way that played out. That's all the triv.
I think that's right. I think it's right to get them reacting in
there. Yeah, me too. Yeah, agreed. Right, so Chris, it's time. My favourite part of the week, and let's be honest, probably the listeners. It's give me that feedback, or formerly known as feedback from last series. Give me the song. Give me a song. Dance monkey.
Give me the feedback for my soul. I want to get lost in the feedback roll and roll it all away. Up in my face with the feedback. Give me the feedback.
Incredible. Just incredible. Welcome to feedback from last series, aka give me that feedback.
A little.
Was that pre? Yeah. Did you pre-prepare that one, or are you just right off the?
I tell you what that was, Dan. That was me going, you said, right, now. And I went, oh, shit, I was going to actually write something so it didn't suck as much. What rhymes with soul? Bowl? Roll? That'll do. So, no, I had planned to write something, but I forgot.
Well, it worked. It's working for you.
So,
it's working.
You'll know. You'll know when I've pre-written it. You'll know.
So we have a few different bits of feedback. We're sort of getting through. Like there aren't actually looking at the comments. Like there's still only a handful. There are a handful for us left to do, which is fine because that's how many episodes we have left. But we'll do an unrelated one this week, which is just a friend of the podcast, The Ponderer, and also Sayer of Interesting Things. Head over to The Ponderer's YouTube channel if you wish to support. You should. Clocked last year, we talked about Doctor Who, and we talked. Take a shot.
Did we mate? No, we never talk about Doctor Who on this show.
No,
we're talking about
doesn't happen.
Ponderer.
And the Ponderer says, "Damn, Dan hates Journey's End. Bummer. Certainly parts of it I don't care for. Granted. Yeah, sorry. I am firmly a non-enjoyer of Journey's End. I won't get into too much detail here because this is an Avatar podcast. But every element of how that story closes bothers me. Yeah, I love the first part, but Journey's End is awful in my opinion. Yeah,
I think there's some I think there's some fun moments in it. They're all fine. The TARDIS
but that's
and
that.
Sort
But
of
then
stuff
that's tied to
nice
the
and
absolutely ridiculous thing of we're just going to move the Earth through space. Like that won't kill everyone immediately. We're going to tow the Earth home. Yeah, do it. Just fucking blow it all up. I hate it so much.
That's because as the Earth is being towed home, you can just see in the background a Tory voting giant fish with a crown on its head, and Dad's like, "No!"
And then there's the whole
scanning through a YouTube video to demonetize it.
I'm just ignoring that. And then there's what they do with Rose. I cannot stand how Rose's character ends here. It's one of the worst things that Russell ever did, writing-wise, on the show. So,
yeah, it's not brilliant. It's the thing is, I didn't mind that either, but then I quite like his Dark Materials.
No, his Dark Materials. That's the ending of his
that.
Dark Materials is from the end of season 2.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Yes, sorry, you're right. You're absolutely
I was
right.
fine with how they ended Rose in season 2. That's no problem. You're right. It's a bit of a copy of Dark Materials, but it works. It's a very emotional, powerful moment. No, I hate what they do with Rose in this. Imagine if, Chris, after his Dark Materials ended, they then found a way to give Lyra her own version of What's-His-Face.
Yeah, sorry, I'm with you.
Dreadful.
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful. Yeah, I hate Jenny's End. It's a piece of shit. It's a bad episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, Dan also didn't like that it ended with, like, there's our Doctor, but there's also another random David Tennant flying around. Like, God, that seems a bit weird. So that was another issue with it, wasn't it?
I'd hate it if they... God, imagine if they did that with a different Doctor, Chris. Or even the same Doctor, again.
You get a Tennant, and you get a Tennant.
Poor Martha just sat in the corner like, when do I get a Tennant? Martha's the only companion they've actually not gone back and ruined her ending retrospectively. I know she got to come back and she was dating a sex pest, but or married to a sex pest. But he's not a sex pest canonically.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking who's a if in season 14 they wanted a modern companion working at UNIT. Who can you do that with? And, Martha's the only one where you wouldn't need to stop the plot for, an hour and be like... Do you know what I mean? You can't have Clara working there and just being like, hey, you still frozen at the minute of your death? Yeah, no, I am. Or, hey, Bill, what are you... Bill, we need to get this. And Bill just turns into a star and goes between walls and comes back with, a folder for cake.
In my head, it was even weirder than that. It was... Hey, Bill. Hello. She's a Cyberman still.
But how mad is that? There's basically only one companion. I don't know, they had to do a bit of explaining what happened to Mel. But, Martha is really the only one. And even then, you say, it's do you mention Mickey?
Yeah.
Do you not mention Mickey?
Yeah, but yeah, anyway, Doctor Who chat aside, I know some people like the little tangents of Doctor Who if you're into Doctor Who. If you're not into Doctor Who, I am sorry. But yeah, no, I'm not a fan of Journey's End is the sad truth of that. I think it's a really, really awful conclusion to that story, but it also does some really shitty stuff for the characters, and I cannot stand it. It drives me mad. And it is such a contrast, Journey's End, because I really like Stolen Earth. I think Stolen Earth's great. But the resolution to Stolen Earth is literally in every single aspect, from the cliffhanger through to how it actually ends for the characters, and particularly for Rose, awful. It's amazing how we go from a sort of 8, 9 out of 10 episode with Stolen Earth, which I genuinely love, to I could not give it any more than a 2 out of 10 for Journey's End. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The way 3 epic cliffhangers are resolved in literally 5 seconds, total, is mad.
Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, it's all of the worst habits of the Russell T Davies finale, for sure. So yeah, sorry, but it's worth noting. Turn Left and Stolen Earth are great. I don't hate the story as a whole, but I'm not a big fan of how it concludes. So that third episode's rough from minute one. Yeah, it's crazy. The drop of quality between the two episodes really is something like scientists need to study what happened there, because it really doesn't. It's crazy to me they were written by the same people. Stolen Earth's Journey's End. Madness. Anyway, so yeah, bit of Doctor Who chat for the end to lighten things up after all the talk of murder.
Yeah, nice. Worth it,
I think. So yeah, I think we're in an interesting situation here, Chris, because I don't know. Do we just end it? We just end it right here, or
Yeah, I think so.
Do we keep the party going?
How do you want to keep the party going?
I don't know. To be fair, we probably need to end it soon because I don't know if you can hear it, Chris, but it has started raining here, and when it rains in Australia, it doesn't rain. It's like an actual thunderstorm. I've experienced 3 thunder and lightning storms, now 4, since I've been here, and I've only been here a month and a half.
Do you want to know something crazy?
Go on.
This is genuinely what happened. You said that, and in my head I went, "Whoa, are you kidding me? Is that what I can hear? Shit, I thought it was raining outside, but no, it's not raining, and that must mean that I can hear the rain that Dan's hearing from us in Australia right now. That is mad." Oh wait, oh no, Jess is having a shower. Literally, that was my thought process. I can't hear the rain. No, just Jess having a shower.
Amazing. That's incredible. Well, okay, if you can't hear it, then the listeners probably can't hear it. Although the other week we had the cicadas. They absolutely could be heard quite loud on the recording. I'm sorry for that, everyone. I literally can't help it. They are very loud, and there are lots of them out here. And Chris, actually, very quickly, you said, "Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of a cicada before," and I was like, "No, that's fair enough. You might not have. They're a bug that exists." One thing I do think you will be familiar with them though is the sound they make, Chris, because it's the sound of The Walking Dead. The cicadas are that weird hissing noise that's in the background of all Walking Dead episodes, especially those early ones.
All right.
It's an unpleasant noise this year.
What, they literally recorded a cadence and put it on Walking Dead?
No, they couldn't not have them in the show because they make that noise while they're recording.
Oh, right.
So The Walking Dead was shot outside, and there were just actually lots of background cicada noises. So they kept them in. I googled it, and people are asking what's that noise that's in the background of The Walking Dead a bunch, and it's it's the cicadas, because you can't edit them out. They're that loud. So yeah, they could be heard on that podcast, and I'll be hearing them later today because they tend to make lots of noise and gather in great numbers after rain, and it is currently raining, as I mentioned. So in a little bit later today, I will be treated to the loud hit sort of noise they make. It's good fun. Australia's fun. Anyway, Land of Unusual Creatures. Let's do the stuff that finishes the episode. So that's everything for this week. You can get us on Instagram. Not Instagram. Why did I say Instagram? Oh, because I've got the Raphodraws Instagram link in front of me. We'll do that in a second. You get us on Patreon, where you can hear next week's episode right now if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or any of those places, and you're thinking, God, I really would love to hear next week's episode right now. Patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. You can get the episodes a week early. You get access to our Discord, and you get access to our bonus podcast, Nothing But Lyrics, which is a good fun podcast where we make fun of the lyrics of various songs. You can support us in several other ways, of course, by liking and subscribing and commenting or reviewing on any of the platforms you interact with this podcast, whether that be your podcast platform of choice or the YouTube channel. Of course, you can go subscribe over there. Comments, if you want to put feedback in for next series' version of Give Me That Feedback, and you want your comment read after Chris sings a beautiful pre-written song, which will be amazing and incredible and break all the boundaries of music as we know it, and is coming probably next week. I don't want to push genius, but it's coming. Then you can leave your feedback on the YouTube comments of this very video, of this very podcast, and then we'll put them into the pool for next year, and we'll pluck out the comments that are of interest or that are just at random sometimes. We don't always get to all of them, but we do get to a lot. We do get to a good hefty percentage of them because, we're not that big a podcast. We don't get hundreds and hundreds of comments. We just get a few. So it's easy for us to make sure everyone is included. I think that's everything, though, except for Raphodraws. Yeah, go support Raphodraws. Instagram.com/Raphodraws, spelled RAPHODRAWS. And they're also on Tumblr and Twitter and YouTube on that same handle. Or you can go to launchlinks.io/u/Raphodraws. If you're wondering who Raphodraws is the artist that provides that brilliant piece of art of Appa at sunset that we use as the key art for this podcast. I think, is that everything? Yeah, I'm going to say that's everything. So thanks everyone for listening. Do you have anything to add, Chris?
No, I thought you did that beautifully. Apart from arguably maybe talking the written song "For Give Me Your Feedback" up a little bit, especially considering it's to the tune and and lyrically mostly stolen from another song. But
look, all I'm saying is, give me that feedback is probably going to be number one in at least the UK for a couple of months. It's going to be a big boon for this podcast once you let it go. Once you sort of
that's the thing that's going to make the difference.
Well, it's going to hit the charts. Then people are going to be like, "Where's the song from?" And then someone's going to be like, weirdly, it's this like unknown, almost like Avatar podcast, and they're going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to go listen to this podcast." And they're like, "Oh, don't worry, it's like 90 odd episodes in that they give me that feedback. The brilliant song you're thinking of is written," and they're like, "Wow, I've got to listen to 90 odd episodes of these guys talking about this animated show before I hear them talk about this or write this song." Yeah. Well, it's worth it. We're going to get a lot of listeners from it, I think.
Yeah. All they're going to go, is that the song Andy sings in The Office?
So Chris is going to write this amazing song. It's going to be incredible. It doesn't have to be, it's going to be groundbreaking. It's going to be groundbreaking. I'm very excited for everyone.
Fair enough.
Very excited. Anyway, that's everything for this week. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you in a week's time when we sit down to review The Ultimatum. This is the episode of the podcast in which in about 12 minutes we discuss bleeping the one F word Chris has used at that point. Not realising this is how we start. This is the start of Chris speaking in this episode. Let's see how long.
Except Marco and Bolin, who are still stuck in prison, with one of them, I've given up, one of them trying a metal bend.
Yes, with one of the two. Yes, that's correct. So that's the episode. How are we feeling, Chris? What do we think?
I thought it was great. I thought it was action-packed. I thought, we got a fucking big old fish coming out of the sand chasing him. Mm-hmm. We got a gruesome death. I mean, I fucking felt like a fucking Star Wars movie, mate. I loved it. I thought it was great. Yeah. Like, honestly. I thought
it took 20-odd seconds for Chris to get to a swear, and then he did immediately 3 of them in about 6 seconds. Thank you, Chris, for demonetizing us, as always. Prick.